Welcome everybody. Let's get started. So just a quick outline of how the evening is planned to flow. So I'm going to have a little bit of an intro for probably 10-15 minutes because I did want to go over trans tech because it is such a new term. I think we need to bring it to life kind of because it is quite ambiguous still. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll have our first speaker, Dr. Selena Bartlett, to come and share MIGFIT with us. And then we've got Marley Brown from Compago to come and share Compago. And then I'm going to invite Kim and Henry up to share anything exciting that's happened over the last month. They were our speakers at the last month. And then I was hoping to have a bit of a panel with the four of them and myself and just talk generally about the transformational technology ecosystem in Australia and what we can do and what are the opportunities, what are the gaps, that sort of thing. How does that sound? Intention is to finish about 8 o'clock. It is pretty relaxed. We're an intimate group, as you can see. We're hoping to ramp that up in the next foreseeable future. I had some exciting news today. I put in a grant application to the Incubator Support Program. It's a federal government program. It's kind of 80% good news. Because it's 80% approved, it's got to go through one last hurdle. So it was a grant to go over to San Francisco and spend some time with the founders of Transformational Technology and come back here and continue to run these meetups. But because I will have allocated some hours in there, I'll be able to work towards finding additional sponsors and really work with the people, the transformational technology entrepreneurs to help highlight, what do you need and how can I help with the view of connecting you into the global ecosystem. The intention with this meetup is a couple of things, is to help to identify the transformational technology entrepreneurs that are out there, to help to profile them and then showcase them to the broader international network, but then also to encourage others to get into transformational technology and start startups, help understand what it is and the importance of it as well. So we want to encourage more people to jump into this space and build transformational technology and then build companies off the back of them and help us to change the world. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But before I get into the slides, I wanted to invite Ksenia to come up and chat from the Hub's perspective. The GC Hub has jumped on as a sponsor and allow us to host these events here. So I just want to give a huge shout out to GC Hub. And for those that don't know much about, who is from the GC Hub and has spends time here? No one. All right, so you've got a virgin audience to pitch the GC Hub to. So over to you, Ksenia.
Definitely, but welcome to the Gold Coast Innovation Hub. So we've opened up this building only in November, so we're relatively new, although the idea has been around probably for about 5 years. So our mission is to bring the Gold Coast in general, not only on a national map, but international map, and then highlight the companies and then support businesses here and then actually really, really grow innovation. So we run different programs for the broader community on the Gold Coast. And these programs range from the pre-accelerator programs to up to programs for scale-up companies like advisory board program and whatnot. We're backed by 3 levels of government as well, and then we have over 20 commercial partners as well. So within the space here, we have currently 75 businesses that are a part of our incubator model. So they actually here get the co-working space, but on top of that, they get mentoring and support as well through it. So we actually run different accountability sessions with them. We have advisory, a board of people who can help them as well. So, and we run different events that obviously help. And then that's why we thought that this event center is very crucial to have, because currently the events people run other surf clubs, and then obviously there's a band that's playing and whatnot. So we wanted to have a space that is dedicated for business events, and then events that actually can benefit entrepreneurship broader range. So please stay in touch with us. So please jump on our website. We have constant events, something happening here. Like tomorrow we're going to talk about grants actually, which is really cool. So we're going to have secrets of grant application. So we have all different range of programs from paint and wine tomorrow. We're going to run that, so which is really cool. That's for members only. And then and obviously we're very, very excited to have TransTech here as well, and then having a meetup here, because personally, like, I'm from personal development background, I absolutely love all that, and it's absolutely amazing to see how technology can change the world. So, yay, welcome.
Cool, thanks, Ksenia. And shout out to New Black Studios there recording tonight's event. So we're going to have a full-length recording of tonight's event. I think it's a crucial role because really we do want to capture the stories of our transformational technology entrepreneurs and profile and showcase them to the world. And the space, that's Damien and myself, it's our business. We've got a hub actually in Cairns, but now living on the Gold Coast. And from my perspective, this is something a space that I've always been into, not so much the technology space, but the whole transformational space, personal development, meditation. And more recently, my world's kind of merged, collided with having an incubator in Cairns and having this passion for passion for personal development. The opportunity came to work with Nicole and the guys out of Palo Alto in San Francisco to be part of transformational technology. And so this chapter here it's early stage. This is our second meetup. It's one of only 15 throughout the world, so it's early days, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Yay. They have been running, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of background before we jump in and invite our first speaker up. So Transformational Technology, they've run now 4 conferences over the last 4 years. The 5th being this year on the 15th to the 16th. Henry, I believe, spoke a couple of years ago at one of the conferences. Is that right, Henry? 2016, yep. So, and last year they ran their first global academy, which was a 1-month free academy. They had people from all over the world. I think there was like 1,000 people from 450 different cities that applied for the academy, that participated in this free, no equity based academy, which was designed to help, I guess, identify who's who in the world that's working in this space, that has an interest in this space. And off the back of them, the 15 chapters have now formed. Does anyone have a stab in the dark of what transformational technology actually is? Whoop. Sorry. This one has got 2 buttons. One for front and one for back. It messes me up. Anyone? Transformational technology?
Technology that enables transformation.
Yep.
Nailed it.
It does, but I guess absolutely. But it as related more so to the human mind, I guess. So it's about helping us enable. I'm just going to read it. How do we enable every human to develop the cognitive and emotional ability to express their full potential? To a large extent, we are encumbered by our mental state of mind at the moment. So there's 3 key areas that we focus on. There's the emotional well-being, mental health, and human thriving. And the reason, like the opportunity is that technology is now, like it's convergence of different technologies, and it's basically repurposing the technologies that that to the large extent are dysfunctional in our lives, and how do we leverage these technologies to actually help support us moving forward. And it's becoming critical because, like as we move forward, and this is like an estimate, 80 million jobs are going to be gone by 2030. And it's like Yuval Noah Harari, he says that there's going to be this useless class of people moving forward because they just won't have the skill sets that we need. Has anyone read the book Homo Sapiens and then Homo Deus? They're a good read in terms of like forward thinking in this space. I highly recommend them. And it really brings in the need for these soft skills. So, and like Nicole, who is one of the founders of Transformational Technology, she talks about the fact that we're not taught these soft skills like the creativity, the collaboration, and it's kind of like roulette. We pick them up from a mentor at some point, or we may have had a parent that teaches us, but we're not actually taught them in school. So where do we actually learn them? And it is a real problem that we're confronted with. Not only that, our attention, our cognition is being compromised from mobile phones, this constant distraction. Outdated educational systems is not allowing, it's not skilling us up to give us these skills. We're in this cognition crisis, like I mentioned. The stagnant and siloed medical system, outdated ways of doing things. Rising stress, anxiety, and depression. Depression is suggested to be bigger than heart disease and cancer by 2030. And our class biological systems, AI is on its way. So we really need to be focusing in this direction. So building the tech that we really need to become, that's why I'm excited to be part of this, and one of the reasons why I'm here and have ideally put this grant application in, because I can see how critical this is. And it's not just it's a shared mission. So it's an opportunity for all of us and supporting the entrepreneurs that are doing the work to scale up and essentially have an impact. Because it is everyone's. And why now? It's because we have a need, demand, and the needs. There is this need, even on an economic sense, like governments. There's even Henry talks about how disengaged employees are. Like 80% of employees, 85% of employees are disengaged. So there's a measurable need now, starting to have an economic impact. And the demand there is used to be taboo to talk about your feelings, and meditation was for hippies and monks, but now it's like the younger generation, they want happiness, they want balance, they want this in their lives. So there's a real demand there for it, and now technology is enabling it. So for the first time ever, there's this real convergence of need, demand, and means. While I'm flicking through these slides, I've just inherited these from Transformational Technology head office. They are beautiful. And I just got them this afternoon, so some of them don't mean much to me yet. So I'm looking at them going, oh yeah, that's cool, boom. But the others mean a lot.
That's an entrepreneur.
And this is the 3 steps that Nicole talks about, the future basics, just showing people the abilities, and it's a learned skill that we can have to actually manage our mental health, our emotional health, and our happiness. And then the second level is the soft skills that we were talking about before, is equipping people with them so that they have the ability to be able to be resilient in a world that is ever changing, where jobs are being disrupted. And then the third stage, which is where I'm really excited about, is the flourishing enhanced mental capacity. And we talked about the accelerated learning and what Henry's doing with the group flow. It's that's where it gets really exciting for me, where I get goosebumps, and how can we leverage these technologies to accelerate our own personal and collective evolution. And this is what we do essentially as a transformational technology meetup, or what we're looking to do is basically help to, it's not health tech. And it was interesting, I like how Kim positioned. Did you want to say how you positioned health tech the other day when we were chatting on the phone? Do you mind?
Most health tech is very focused on disease mitigation. It's really sick tech. It's
Yeah.
transformative tech, right?
Whereas this is preventative, it's well-being. So I really like that, and that really stuck with me, that distinction. But it's one, yeah, exactly. And it's through, we want to then help these innovators to then create businesses out of these and scale these to have an impact. And I'll show in a moment, next slide, is about what the broader vision is that Nicole set forward. Nicole's got a TED Talk which I played last time. I'll send the link out as part of a follow-up. So if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out. She does a much better job at this than I do. And it is about, like I mentioned before, encouraging new people to get into the game, into the innovation startup, to build a transformational technology and to then, support them to turn it into a business. And this is what we do, is we help them find feedback, funding, and friends. And so that's what my role is, I see, is like help to bring people together so that we can connect. And I've already seen some incredible synergies, and I think it's only just beginning between the technology entrepreneurs that come. And then it's like, well, what are the gaps? How do we help? How do we accelerate your success? Because then that's our success, and it's like the shared vision of getting to, they suggested that to have an impact, to really start not a movement, I can't remember the exact word that she uses. You need 25% of the population. And so by 2030, we want to have a billion people with this elevated human mind. And then by 2050, have 2 billion. Why are you guys laughing? Anyway.
We're not laughing, go and check.
It's not strategic. It'll come to me. It's not movement, but it's like movement. Anyway.
You basically only need 25% of the people in the room on board
to have an impact on everybody else.
And because the other 75 actually float up. It's like the
Yeah.
rising tide.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a name for it. We actually just spoke about it yesterday.
Okay, that's why I use were smiling, and I was like, yeah. So that's what the intention is, to help a billion people by 2030 to yeah. Yeah, it's not a tipping point. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it'll come.
That is the same concept.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good book, by the way. Then this was interesting that I didn't realize. Apparently Maslow, when he was quite old, he actually had another level to his hierarchy of needs that's not commonly known, which is called self-transcendence. It's like all the work that we do getting to self-actualization, it becomes redundant because we actually transcend that self that we actualize. Yeah. And traditional tech gets us to here, like on the first 2 levels, and where trans tech plays a role is helping to support get to that self-transcendence. So that's the role, that's the space that we play.
I think we need to add another one, like a little star on the top that says group transcendence.
Yeah, well, that's what I guess that previous slide is. Is that, that one, yeah. Yeah, that's it, that's the shed. It is that group transcendence, yes. So this guy gets it. And these are the areas, just to help bring it back to what the hell is transformational technology. These are the kind of areas that we're talking about, the different types of technology that can be applied. So sensors, like the whole range there, across, as whether we assess, amplify, enhance, or connect in a variety of different areas. And these are some examples. And one of the reasons why I'm particularly passionate from an Aussie's point of view, as I look at this, because there's actually a Trans Tech 200, where they've identified the 200 leading transformational technology companies in the world. And even looking at this, I see like meditation, and I see like there's no focus band up there. I was like, well, focus band's not there. So I would like, we need to get our Aussie startups on here. Our Aussie businesses on here. So these are different examples of what's actually available in market today in these particular areas. Behaviour change, so this is like MIGFIT, this is like Positive Prime. Would you say that's behavioural change? Yep. And what about Compago? Where would that fit, do you think? I was looking at this earlier, sorry. Would it be platforms?
Platforms, I mean, that's kind of what we're designing this for.
Yeah.
In terms of aged care, retirement living, building out communities to be able to communicate with each other in a safe, secure environment.
So if we fast forward 12 months, when this slide deck gets updated, we want to see these startups on it. Absolutely, absolutely. That's the intention. There's a whole road. From my point of view, I want to be someone that's on the cutting edge of this technology as it's coming out and utilising it in my life to level me up so that I'm on that third human thriving run. That's where I want to go. That's why I'm doing this. And then we are the largest collective ecosystem, and these are the initiatives. There's the conference, obviously, that's happening in November. There's the lab, which I'm excited to hopefully go and spend some time at in a couple of months. And that's the TransTech 200, where we'll see all you guys, the TransTech startups in that list. So we're one of members in 70 cities, 70 countries, 450 cities. There's only 15 chapters and we're one of them. So we've had to, do the work to get to that. So we're already, ahead of 435 cities. That's pretty good. And there's the Academy will launch again next year, so more information will come out about that. But it's not just like, what I'm excited about is there's corporates that get this, there's venture funds that get this, so part of the job is to then connect and like I say, like to profile and showcase, and then do you need funding, or how do we make that happen? And that's the map. So this is what, how can we help the transformative future? How can we all be involved in this? And it's like, imagine with us, create with us, build companies, support this movement, get involved, bring more people. Like, it'd be awesome to see 100 people at events like this, 200 people at events like this. Like if we have an expo later this year, like there's lots of ideas that I'm thinking around. Just get involved and support wherever you can. So that's kind of it. And so this is our TransTech community thus far. For the people that have presented, but we want to add obviously a whole bunch more moving forward. So our speakers tonight. Without any further ado, I am going to introduce. Sorry, does anyone have any questions at this point or any comments? Nope. I am remiss because I also invited Leanne. Leanne, are you here? Hey, Leanne. Leanne's from Empathy VR. Sorry?
It's called Lose Your Mind.
Lose Your Mind, okay. Sorry, and it's Empathy VR. Yep. We connected on LinkedIn the other day, and she's based in Brisbane as well, and I said, you've got to come down and hang out. So you bought some units as well? Yep, cool. So I want to invite Leanne to present more formally so that we can profile her at an event coming up. But if there's time at the end, I'd really love for you to just give us a quick overview of Lose Your Mind. Lose Your Mind, that's really cool. I like that. I like that. So thanks, Leanne. All right, so I really loved the introduction that Dr. Selena Bartlett gave me, so I really want to read it. So Dr. Selena Bartlett is a group leader in neuroscience and obesity at the Translational Research Institute at the QUT, Queensland University of Technology. She's the CEO and co-founder of MigFit, Inc., a health tech startup on a mission. Actually, I actually changed it up here to TransTech, but I didn't change it here. So TransTech, thank you. Startup on a mission to use neuroscience and technology to disrupt mental health. She is also the Trace It app brain games developer and an author and podcaster that is writing books and giving talks on relatable neuroscience for the public. Most recent book is Smashing Mindset, and started a podcast called Shine. Other interesting facts is that the professor, or the doctor, is an ultra runner. She's a not very funny comedian, because when you know what I know about the brain, all you can do is turn to comedy. Addicted to life and thinks Australians are some of the luckiest people alive. Absolutely. Motto is dance in the moment and by doing something freaking hard. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a huge round of applause.
Okay, well, thank you all for coming out on a, Tuesday night. And thank you, Troy, very much for meeting you. That's been a very big blessing. And that came through Kim and now Henry. Oh, I'm so excited. Like, you're speaking my language, man.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. So this is where I'm not a neuroscientist and I become like a universe person. But anyway, there's lots of reasons I became a neuroscientist. And one of them, and this wasn't part of my talk, but I feel like I have to say it. My sister had schizophrenia in 1989. I was a pharmacist at the time in Brisbane. And I did this talk on Friday in the Science Festival, but basically her treatment at the time was a straitjacket and an overdose of haloperidol. And I was writing a thesis at the time on why people buy cough and cold medications in a pharmacy. And I was in the lockup ward with her, and I'm like, that's pretty irrelevant. And obviously we don't know how the brain works. Because if you saw how she was treated back then, you'd be totally shocked. It hasn't improved greatly. But anyway, I went back and did my PhD, and I've been traveling the world ever since. I actually developed medications for 20 years in San Francisco. I ran a lab there. And during that time on my transition back to Brisbane, I actually discovered neuroplasticity. And I actually applied it to my own life because I was actually very fat, very unhealthy, and very unhappy, probably about 7 years ago. And I really believed if I just developed drugs, all I had to do is pull the brain apart to its pieces and then come up with a better solution by targeting a specific protein inside the brain. And I actually was the person that discovered Champix for alcohol addiction and did all those clinical trials. So that was my lab. And then my lab just recently also showed that sugar is as addictive as alcohol and nicotine, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about tonight. Anyway, so I actually believe you talk about mental health, and I'd love to meet your founder, and I'd like to see that word changed to brain health and not mental health. I believe that when we change mental health and get rid of the word, and turn it into brain health, because we all have a brain and it's bloody, bloody powerful. And we'll be sitting around the table at Christmas time talking about what we did for our brain training. And then I know I've done my job. So MigFit, basically, we're brain training people. Now, I gave a talk at a startup pitch competition in Silicon Valley last September. And when you're at these events, as you know, you're sitting at having a little bit to eat, and the little angel investors kind of just wander around. They don't ever tell you who they are, and they just sit down and ask you what you're up to, right? Because they're trying to be ahead of the curve to beat the VCs. Anyway, and then on my panel were 3 VCs, right? And so I end up winning the competition. I actually was eliminated, and then I end up winning. That's another. I actually wore a helmet that looked like a brain and had pizza and Corona on top. Needless to say, I got some attention. Afterwards was very interesting. So what are you thinking about? So VCs are looking 10 years down the track, what to fund now that's going to be the next $1 trillion disruptor, right? Not billion anymore, we need $1 trillion disruptors. So can you guess what that is? I'm thinking you can, because you just heard Troy speak, right? Mental health. And so when they heard me speak, I was talking about train your brain to slim your waistline, because that's actually commercial. And I've been trying to do brain health training for years before that. No one was interested. They care about what they look like, but they don't give a damn about what their brain's doing, because you can't see it, right? And so I moved into this space of your body, but then at the same time, you're actually training your brain. So I'm getting in a different doorway, and they could hear what I was saying. And they said, no one speaks like that in this space. You're the only one I know, because they could actually see what I was really up to, which is using neuroscience, big data, and AI to basically disrupt the way mental health is treated. Because, and now I hope by the end of my talk, 1, you'll be able to apply this to yourself. I'm going to give you really simple things. 2, you can see that the way we're currently treating mental health is completely stupid, and that we have to disrupt this space using trans-tech technology. There is no choice about it, otherwise we're just going to keep repeating the same mistakes for the next God knows how long. So this is how we currently treat it, right? And this is why it's $1 trillion. We spend $300 billion, this is American dollars by the way, $300 billion on meds, okay? That's 4 categories of medication. $200 billion on pain meds, $20 billion on antipsychotics, and they're a growing class of drugs. Anti-anxiety meds are $20 billion, and then antidepressants. Now, did you know that in 1980, anxiety was about 2% of people had anxiety. By 1999, the percentage had more than tripled, and the bloody pharmaceutical companies basically marketed generalized anxiety order before they marketed their new drug Paxil, because they needed to have a growing market. And I'm a pharmacist, by the way. I'm not against anything. It's just that we've gone crazy in these spaces. Then this is an underestimate. That's $640 billion, and that's just a calculation on one visit. And we know that 30 million people in America are seeing a therapist, and that's just one visit. That's an underestimate of how much is being spent in a year in therapy. Alcohol and drug abuse is $740 billion a year from what's all of the fallout from alcohol and drug abuse. And lastly, of course, this is the growing thing, and the estimates are that by 2025, 70% of Australians are going to be overweight or obese. And it's not about how you look in this category, it's about that we have now 4-year-olds that are getting diabetes, for example. So it has a big, big, big impact on health. Like, it affects fatty liver disease, it affects diabetes, it affects heart disease, it affects cancer, etc. Anyway, so you're not going to leave here depressed and anxious, don't worry. It's just to show you how stupid we are. Anyway, so when you woke up this morning, how did you feel? Did you feel like, wow, I can't go out, wait to go out tonight, it's going to be the best talk, I'm going to learn all about the brain, I can't wait. Right? You know? Or was it more like, oh my God, I've got to get the lunches ready, got to get them to school, oh my God, I've got to go and talk to my boss, how am I going to pay the bills next week, I have a company, who's going to fund it, right? So I ask you, do you know what's happening inside your brain in either one of these situations? Has anyone ever told you about what's going on inside your brain? Now I ask you just to sit back and push your shoulders back and put your hands on your hips and take a really deep breath. And then, of course, smile at me, because we're all here having fun. And then look to your neighbour and say hi. And and like, just introduce yourself and say, welcome to the Gold Coast Hub, you know? So, you know, look at you, you're so much happier. You're smiling at me, so now I can feel more comfortable giving this presentation too. So instantly what you did then, you just got in control of your own brain chemistry, right? So every drug you take to feel better, we have access to every single one of those drugs inside our brain, even down to DMT, which is what people are taking from the Sonora frog in the psychedelic realm. We have DMT, we do, and you can find it, trust me. Anyway, so the bottom line is, we've never shown anyone how to train their brain. We've never taught anyone. We talk about it in these words, like you just got to, you know, all these words that people use. And it gets so complicated when it's just biochemistry, and each of us can tap into our own biochemistry. It's literally like plumbing. And we know that when you want to build your bicep, you've got to do 5 reps of this many, right? Tell me what you're doing for your amygdala. What did you do for your amygdala this morning? Exactly. It should be just like your bicep. So that's what my podcast is all about. I'm taking each piece of the brain, making it really relatable, and teaching people that you can literally do 3 reps of 30 deep breathing exercises every day. You're literally retraining your amygdala. Now, you're going to see why this is important, because you're actually born stressed out. You're born stressed out. You're not born a blank slate. I'm sorry, guys. Really sorry. You're not. And it's millions of years of evolution. Every brain's very different. And basically what's happened, and I'm going to show you why that is, and when you understand that, now you know why I'm in comedy. But basically, you are born with your genetic blueprint. But the minute your brain is even opening up the neural tube, the first time the brain's developing, that environment is literally impacting the way the brain's growing, developing, and being shaped. Everything your parents, even what your father ate, has already impacted your brain development. And we now know that that's being passed on for 3 subsequent generations. And we don't even think it's in epigenetics anymore. We actually think it's in microRNAs and prions that come from yeast, right? So they're holding and storing these long-term memories. Isn't that amazing? And so the research is just getting better and better and better. But these things, what you're eating, what you're drinking, who you're hanging out with, the environments you're creating are shaping and wiring your brain. And so we have now an ability to actually measure these things, right? So just let me step you through this. It's not as scary as it looks, but basically in red are genes that are turned off, in green these are genes that are turned on. And the difference is this is a biological mother, this is a surrogate mother, and just those two things of nurturing can just completely change. So these are the same genes being expressed. Some are turned on and some are turned off completely differently just by the mothering situation. And Michael Meaney's research has demonstrated that if you haven't learnt to, if your mother never licked you as a pup, if you're a pup, then you won't go on and lick your pups. And that goes on and on and on unless you break it, right? So, and he's done all of the biology to demonstrate why that's the case. So this is the reason why, guys. So your brain goes back through animals, right? And this ancient part of the brain that drives our stress reactions, it drives our fear center, it keeps us alive, is very ancient. It's very hardwired. It comes up from your spinal cord, heading up to your prefrontal cortex. But what do you think that is? Yes, it's a mushroom. So mushrooms they came out with bacteria, and we share 30% of our DNA with mushrooms. And if you look at how mushrooms, so mushrooms are the flowering bodies, but underneath the ground, they signal across really, really large distances, and they have electrical signals, and some of the way that our brain signals is actually the same as a mushroom. And it's not a mushroom, it's a fungi, right? So we know that we date back that far. And we have some of that circuitry in our brain right now. And the main job of your brain is just to keep you alive. It doesn't care about much else. It doesn't care about your car that you're driving, for example. So when you understand that, and you understand how old and hardwired it is, and then you understand that second thing, its main job is just to keep you here and alive, then that's why we're driven by stress. Because we're not controlling it and no one's even shown you how to. Basically, the brain is driving all your behavior and you're not driving your brain. And so you know that there's all these huge new experiments with psychedelics, you know? So it just makes me think that we want to be fun guys again.
Where do we get these psychedelics?
You know, Bay Area. Everyone doing that. They're having existential crises. But anyway, so the bottom line is that stress, and I'm not trying to be just funny, but it is true that we are actually born stressed out, and everyone's got a different level. And then some people come into very nurturing situations and homes. So this completely changes the reaction, the way the amygdala, or the emotional part of the brain is what I like to call it, has been wired by it. So this good nurturing environment can actually calm down the reactionary part of the brain. And then other people come into situations that are completely the opposite, that are very violent, very traumatic, poverty situations. So I've worked with a lot of kids in out-of-home care, incarceration. Why I'm telling you that is because this is the reason that we have depression, anxiety, addiction, schizophrenia, and all of these things later in life. It's all driven by the way the brain was formed right in the beginning. We've known this now for 25 years, and it's brain wiring, total brain wiring. And so we call it adverse childhood experiences, but basically you can see changes in the brain activity. It takes down the ability of the brain to function properly. And stress is good. Got you here tonight, thank you. So that's called eustress. Or you're developing companies and products and you're doing all this amazing stuff. It can be stressful, but it's actually good stress. Then there's this constant little worrying stress that's in the back of your mind that's pointless and we don't ever control. And that's the bit that's really wiring the brain. And what it's actually doing is it's taking down the synaptic communication channels in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that drives impulse control and short-term decision making. It's the thing that stops you having the third beer or the third donut, for example. That's impulse control, and that's why addiction is driven by a deficit in a deficit in the communication channels in this part of the brain. So can you see why, if we want to help people with addiction, depression, anxiety, and all of these stress-related fear, PTSD, for example, disorders, then basically we have to rebuild the synaptic connections that have gone missing. One from a traumatic childhood, or two from other things, and that's what I call brain resilience. I call it, we have to rebuild the structures of the brain before you can even prepare the brain to tell them to go and do all this other stuff. So that's why these things where, and you'll see this in people where they're talking to people about their problems, basically you'll never unpack it unless you go back to mushrooms. So you could spend the rest of your life trying to unpack all your crap, but you'll never find it anyway. And that's what I was talking to Troy about. That's why VR, creating avatars for yourself, the only thing we can do is to use neuroplasticity, because the brain will change forever, to create the brain you want and to draw a line in the sand and to forget about all the generations of crap that you inherited, because you'll never find it anyway. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why I love this man. He totally was just like, I'm like, oh my God. Most people think I'm totally out of my mind, which I probably am. But anyway, so the other thing that happens, because the brain doesn't want to kill itself from all the stress that's not being handled by anybody, no one's handling their stress. Tell me someone you know that woke up today and said, guess what I did for my amygdala, who my amygdala trainer is. You know what I mean? You don't have yoga clothes for your amygdala. you know what I mean? Yet. There's a market. I call it Miggy because I think it's cute. That was my first book, but no one read it because they were like, what the hell is Miggy? But anyway, the brain's really clever, and so basically it doesn't like all that stress, and it wants to keep its prefrontal cortex, and so it makes you eat, or drink, or gamble, or sex, or work. It just drives you because that sends up dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and how you get addicted to love and attention and all of those things, because that's the thing that balances the stress, right? So the brain's always trying to maintain this balance, because the part of the brain that I told you about where stress is being processed, fear and stress is being processed in the it's the amygdala, but right next to it is the nucleus accumbens. That's the part that processes reward and motivation. That's the part that stimulates the release of dopamine, serotonin, and these other good neurotransmitters, right? So you might be stimulating this one, but the brain's making you drive to do something to counterbalance it. So do you know what you eat or drink when you're under stress? Mine is, I used to go and eat a lot of sugar. That's why in my talk on Friday, my addiction is I'm a sugarholic and I resist Tim Tams. But everyone has their thing. Can you think of what yours is? Like, everyone's got something different, for example, So I was doing alcohol addiction. On my transition back to Australia from San Francisco, I ran a lab there for 12 years. We did an experiment. We were trying to look at how nicotinic receptors are being changed in the brain by alcohol. And we had a control, which was sugar, because sugar doesn't do anything, right? It's the control for alcohol. And my collaborator calls me and she said, oh my God, Selena, you won't believe this, but the sugar animals' brains and the nicotinic receptors, so the nicotinic receptors are the thing that nicotine binds to and makes you feel good after a puff or having a drink. You get dopamine release. It's all mediated through the nicotinic receptor system, which is all over the brain. So we were studying how those had changed. And sugar basically is exactly identically changing nicotinic receptors like alcohol and nicotine. Okay? Frightening, right? Frightening. And that's how I got really fat too, because I really like sugar to handle my stress. So what we went on to show, we published this, and basically sugar is as addictive as alcohol and nicotine. These are the sort of experiments we do. You can't really see it here, but we actually physically label all the neurons and we study how they've been changing. So when I'm talking about the physical connections, see the cell bodies here, and you see all of the branches coming off. It's hard to see here, but on the top is our water animals, but you can see that how alcohol is completely changing the physical structure of these neurons. We see this for stress and fear, and we see it for sugar. And we see it in exactly the same way. which is, we published that, and which is quite interesting. So the cool thing is neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to change forever. So that just as alcohol's taking out those connections, neuroplasticity brings them back in. Nothing more than physical biochemistry, right? But you have to put in the effort, like getting a muscle in your arm. If you don't do those reps, forget about a bicep. If you don't do the reps, forget about getting the physical structure back in the brain. It's not going to happen. So what I want to do, and when I did my comedy stick, I said, I'm a neuroscientist evangelist. I'm creating the temple of neuroscience. Come and join me. But basically, when you understand that, and I did it for myself, okay, so I have a lab doing neuroplasticity because I believe it is the revolution that's going to happen. It's been underway for 40 years. But then I became a guinea pig in the experiment because, one, I had very bad depression at one point for lots of reasons, and I rewired my brain out of it because I went through the medical system. I'm like, that's not going to work for my life issues. And, you know, and sat with a psychologist twice, and then they started to ask me how the brain works. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay $200 an hour to tell you. So I got to work out how to do this thing myself. Anyway, so basically the bottom line is neuroplasticity can beat these things, but it's simple, it's not easy. And that's the problem, right? Is that it's when you take a drug, you can feel good in the instant, because I'm a pharmacist too, and I get why, and I'm not against them, because I think if it helps people, it's fantastic. What I'm against is the long-term incidents. So we actually know if you sit and talk about your problems, we know if you don't have remediation in 6 months, you'll never have it. But the revenue models are such that you've got to stay there. The same for drugs. We have not looked at the long-term consequences of taking an antidepressant and anti-anxiety med for 20 years. And I just met this woman who got one because she had some phobia. She ended up on an anxiety med, and then she said she became anxious about not having her anxiety meds wherever she went because the doctor told her if she didn't take it, she was going to have a lot of problems. Anyway, she just went cold turkey one day, and it was like coming off alcohol. But basically, anyway, she was on it for 20 years. So MIGFIT's all about, we're focusing commercially, we're focusing on in the weight side of things, but really it's brain training to slim your waistline. But consequently, because of what I just told you about how sugar, alcohol, and these things impact your brain, when you start to take that down, you start to get back brain resilience, you start to get back your appetite. And I didn't go through the other 3 things that sugar does. It takes down your synapses, which is the prefrontal cortex, which means you can't make good decisions. Activates your hypothalamus, which means you can't get release of leptin and ghrelin, which are the peptides that make you feel full. Now, I never felt full after I ate food. And I remember having a chicken and cheese panini with an Italian neuroscientist, and he looked at me and said, God, you can eat a lot. And I said, and at the time I really could, I never felt full. I had to physically make myself stop eating. As soon as I took down my sugar, basically I could get my appetite back again from food. And then the other thing it's doing, it's stored in visceral fat cells, which line the stomach and the thighs. And so that's why if you work out and then you go and have a frappuccino, basically you need to go and work out for another 3 months to get rid of the frappuccino, because it's not meant, because the energy, it goes through the liver, and that energy is such that it goes into these thing called visceral fat cells, and they actually multiply like little cancer cells. And once you've got them, you never get rid of them. They just shrink. So they're like little gas chambers. So, you know, I got my waistline back too from taking out sugar. So it's got these hidden, it's not just calories. So what happened was sugar got embedded in the food chain because they were trying to get rid of fat. They put in sugar because it burns faster, so it looks like it's low calorie. But kind of the worst thing you can do for your body is actually have a low fat strawberry yogurt, which is what I thought was really healthy. I used to feed my kids that all the time. So as you can imagine, I wanted to give you one exercise that I built because I like to have you feel your brain, because feeling your brain's actually really good for you. Are you up for it? It won't take long, promise. So what I want to teach you about is, it's just a little test, you know, because we're really smart here at the Gold Coast Innovation Hub. And I need to get my glasses. do with the... What's that? Are you a 2? Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a sequence of numbers, and then you're going to do a math problem. Then you're going to tell me the answer, and then you're going to do that. You're going to turn to your neighbour and do the sequence of numbers in reverse. So it's really easy. Okay, are you ready? Okay, 0, 8, 5, 3, 7, 4, 1, 9. And 99 plus 4 is? Just say it out aloud. Okay, fantastic. Now turn to your neighbour and say that number sequence in reverse. You're not allowed to use anything, right? No, not that one.
301.
Yes, I know that's it.
Oh my gosh. Cognition issues.
You done? You got it?
No, I'm blank.
Good. Okay. Anytime. What else would you like? We'll okay. Get a beer for you?
How many numbers were there?
There should be 8. Do you want to have a go?
No, I got the last.
Well, that's good. Go for it. We can get it. We can all help each other here. We're friends.
So I think the last 4 digits were 9580.
No, but you got 580. That's good. She's got the last 3.
0857.
No,
No, 08.
no, no. That's the second one. Okay, we're up to 1 in the last 3. Anyone else want to have a go? Don't be shy. We're all winners here. Okay, 9, 1, 4, 7, 3, 5, 8, 0. Okay, now don't feel bad, because what I was doing is very nasty. And that is by saying that I'm going to give you a math problem. Yep, I was basically stressing out your amygdala. Okay? And because the amygdala is always processing how you're thinking, how you're feeling, what I'm doing, right? And then what happens immediately, there's this railway track that goes from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, which is what I keep talking about, that stress takes down, right? What sits there is working memory. So working memory is that part of your brain that takes in the little, like up to 7, 8 pieces of information in one bit. That's the part of your brain that you're holding things together before you form long-term memories. So what I'm trying to demonstrate to you is when I stress you out, basically I totally take out your working memory, right? And so that way you can only hold in a few pieces, and the things that happen as a consequence of that are, 1, you either freeze, right, and go, oh, I don't do math, not even going to try, right? So there's 3 behaviours that happen. Freezing, right? So you see something scary, you either freeze, or it's like, I'm going to punch your lights out because I actually came here because I'm a friend of Troy's and we're not meant to be doing math problem, right? So you just want to fight me. And the last one is that, oh, I'm just going to run off to the bathroom right now because I don't want anyone to know that I can't do this, right? So each of us take a different reaction. So now apply that to all parts of your life, right? So that's called the reactionary part of your brain and the behavior that follows as a consequence. So I actually set that up on purpose. Some people, when they're really smart ass, they just go, I know what she's doing. That math problem's a distractor. I'm just really good with numbers. And they just push it, like you see it, like I've done this at big banks and stuff like that. And they just lean back and they just shout out the number. Like they don't take any of the distractors, they've worked it all out. And so their brain, all their working memory that's not being stressed out or anything, they're just letting all the information come in, they're not paying attention to anything else, right? And we have the capability of doing that too. And this is what I practice on with my teenage daughter. It's when she's grunting at me. I just push back, smile at her, and she goes, oh, that's not what I was expecting, right? And then she has to smile back because it's a reflex. So you can practice that too. It's a way of disarming your enemies. Seriously, if you're having you have to have a bad conversation with someone, literally take the dominant animal hierarchy position, push your shoulders back, take a deep breath and smile at that person, because you can sense that something bad's going to happen, and watch what happens. You completely disarm your enemy. Fantastic strategy to try. Anyway, so no, back to MigFit. So the bottom line is this is a huge industry, right? Weight loss. There's $88 billion being spent on it. I moved into this space because people understand it in terms of commercial opportunity. If you talk about brain training per se, like I used to, then people are saying, who cares about that? This was in the early days. And so what we've developed is our solution basically is to use neuroscience, big data and AI to actually slim the waistline by using brain training techniques. So we actually developed a sugar track. We've got a very specific focus on sugar only because no one's doing that. People are doing all these other complicated things, but it's actually, if you just take down sugar, and I'll show you some of our early data. So we've developed an app, and we have an intervention, which is actually a game that people play, and it's actually a stress detector with a brain resilience builder. And how that works is, and it's what we've known over a long period of time, is that if you trace using activation of your fine motor neurons, they activate your premotor cortex. And what sits in your premotor cortex but impulse control, working memory, and empathy. Because I was just talking with a woman just 2 days ago who wants to work with me on empathy to get engineers to be more empathetic so that they build robots that don't kill us. I'm not joking, we're doing that. Makes a lot of sense to me. Anyway, so this is what we're doing for MigFit is a solution to use neuroscience, big data and AI. So the beautiful thing about using gameplay is that we can actually, people are terrible at working out whether they're stressed or not, because it's subconsciously wired into the brain over millions of years, right? And we don't even know I can't tell you what your wiring is. I can just tell you how much reactions you have to different things. So what we know is that we can, and this is why the VCs talk to me, is because they're looking for the simplest solutions that we can actually find that don't involve people thinking. Because as I said to you, what I'm trying to get to is just physical biochemistry. We have to improve the functionality of the brain so those things are connecting more strongly so they can communicate more effectively so you can have a more resilient brain. Does that make sense? Good. So this is our product here. What we're developing underneath is algorithms, because each brain in this room, I'm dealing with already 20 completely different brains. Every brain in this room is so completely differently wired. Unless you have a personalized technological solution, we'll never be able to change the world. And that's what we're trying to build here. And we think we can, and we're kind of still hypothesizing, but basically we think we can do that through our game technology, because with the finger, and you'll understand this, Henry, with the brain waving activity, you know that, just basically we'll be able to use what we're measuring through the people and how they're tracing. We've got algorithm that we've built underneath that, and then we basically personalize the games experience around the score that people get when they first enter. And we have, and my son's in deep learning and he's in artificial intelligence, he's at UC Berkeley, and we're in the early stages of building this, but I already know because I've done empirical experiments in kids that are out of home care kids, foster kids. We did this big program. Unfortunately, we didn't have a digitized version. We actually had paper and pen. And if you saw the results there, you'd be just like a gasp. But these kids came in like a room like this, actually. They're banging their heads on the wall, they're running everywhere. And the woman I worked with is amazing. And we basically taught them how their brain works. We gave them a Miggy jar. So a Miggy jar is where you put all your worries in, and you have feathers that you breathe through in a dark tent to make them feel safe. And then they do these tracing exercises. And this was built by Barbara Arrowsmith Young 50 years ago. And they have to get them 100% correct. So they've got to sit there and repeat, right, till it's 100% correct. And what you're doing is you're guiding the brain. The brain has to be in very strong focus and attention. And then they've got something so it's very difficult for them to think about other things, but it also starts to calm the brain. After 10 weeks, and I can go on about this, but 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, by the end of the program, I was sitting at the back of the room and they're all sitting there doing these exercises. And it's just one of those beautiful moments, right? When we were watching neuroplasticity in action in extremely traumatized brains. Every one of those kids had been sexually abused, right? So extremely traumatized brains, after 10 weeks of doing neuroplasticity training, immediately you're like, I think I can get my friends to be less stressed with this. Anyway, so in that moment, I'm like, I have to work out a way of digitizing this, because the teachers had to hold up the paper to the light and look at how far the pens were off and off the line, and then do it for every child, right? So we're able to digitize it. So fortunately I met a games developer and he helped me do that. Am I over time, Troy? Sorry. I tend to do that. Yeah, okay. Oh no.
Mine's only short. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're enjoying this.
Sorry. I have got 2 slides.
Keep going.
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry.
Very, very interesting.
I can talk for hours. It's a problem. Anyway, because it is, as you know, my life.
Yeah, 100%.
This is nothing. I have to talk about frickin' MIG-FIT. No. Because it's a trans tech. No.
And it's your startup, right? And you love it.
I do. Anyway, so I got a children's hospital grant, and we ran our first clinical trial in real people last year, because I really want to run it in real people. I don't want to just develop something and not know it works. Other people said to me in San Francisco, why do you care if it works? Just get it into people. Weight Watchers don't want people to lose weight. What are you talking about? Their revenue model is based on recidivism. But I kind of want people, because sugar addiction is, it's not just to make people look good. If I can help with sugar, basically because I know how it rewires the brain, if I take that out, I'm starting to build brain resilience, right? And if you feel stronger and happier and healthier, that passes on to your family. And what did I say to you about epigenetics and microRNAs? Yeah. If you now go and have children and you tell your partner, hey, did you know that this does that? Then you're not going to pass obesity on 3 generations going forth, which is then also you're passing on brain resilience going forth. And so I know that I've changed the epigenetic history of my own family tree, and I've passed it to my 16, 18-year-old daughter now, so she can pass it on to her. So I've already made a small change in my tree. So I kind of like came back from trying to change the world to just trying to change one little epigenetic gene change going forward. So we got the money we built the app, we tested in real people. The bottom line is we're tracking sugar, because do anyone in this room know how much added sugar they had today? Would you even have any clue? No. You wouldn't have a clue, right? Because they put it in everything too. You think it's just having a lolly or something, but no, it's in sausages and tomato sauce and all of these things. So we're helping people work out how much they're having every day, like a Fitbit, but for sugar intake, added sugar intake. And we're able to demonstrate the green bar is actually our app. The World Health Organization has put out a recommendation of 20 grams a day. And that's just based on very little evidence except on dental caries. So I just wrote a grant to the NHMRC to actually build the first Australian sugar study, so we can have so we can work out how much is in the diet of Australians, but also how much, if you are overweight or struggling with weight, how much sugar you're actually having. And then in Australia, the ABS put out the Australians that have on average 60 grams a day of daily added sugar, and our app shows exactly the same result. And the really cool finding is that we had people use the app for 3 weeks. One group got the app with the game and one group got the app without the game, and the group that got the game had a 50% reduction in the amount of daily added sugar. And the thing that is not significant yet, because it's very small numbers, is we got, and I wasn't expecting this because I wasn't approved to do this yet, but basically we got reductions in waist circumference. And it makes sense, right? Because the energy from fructose is stored in those cells, which are just gas chambers. So we just took out 50% of the added sugar. We took out some of the gas from the chamber. And it matters because waist circumference is a great predictor of overall health. So it's not just weight, it's actually waist circumference. Anyway, these are our competitors. As you can see, there's quite a lot, and they match your slide. And basically, but where we fit in, that we see ourselves as completely different, is where the neuroscience, where the missing piece that could go across all of those different programs. So our business model is to do D2C, which is the basic gameplay, where we have a free game and then we have all of these ways of getting money. And then we have a freemium premium version of the actual MigFit app, and it's really, we are focused on stress-induced emotional eating because no one knows how to do that. They talk about emotional eating, they do all this counselling and stuff, but no one talks about the emotional brain as being a physical structure that needs to be rebuilt and retrained. It's not about talking about your emotions. Emotions are physical, biochemical events. It's just that because we use the word emotion, we think it's soft and fuzzy. It's actually as hard as executive function. And that's my bit. That's the bit I'm really passionate about changing. When you have all those words you have on your slide, that's like my sweet spot, because I believe that we're locked down because of medication, because of all of these things. And for us to become human potential, we actually have to triple down on our weaknesses, which is our fear and our fear-wired emotional brain, because it's so old, you know. And then we have the API that we're building. We want to partner with all of those different companies if we can. That's our aim, is to do B2B2C, because D2C is actually really quite difficult, but we've already started doing that. This is the team. I got really lucky. I met these two amazing young people, and they're my co-founders, and we're actually on the second version of our Trace It app that we've already put on the App Store. And when I won the event in Silicon Valley, I was much more professional than tonight. Sorry. But anyway, he is the one that on my panel, and he's now he wanted to join my company. And this guy is a games developer. He's got tons of experience. He's also in AI deep learning, and he's built games where you go on different islands and direct people around. So he's giving me advice on the game side. And then this is part of I'm a professor at QUT, so my IP that I developed, because it was through a children's grant, they're part of that as well. So thank you for all listening. Sorry I went over. I really apologise for that. But thank you.
That was amazing. You've got such a depth of experience and knowledge. And you could just imagine how having a resource like you, and I don't mean to call you a resource, but...
Well, it's true though. I want to be a resource.
Totally, like, and so in terms of encouraging people, like you can't do it all by yourself, so you need people to
like
support you and to help.
Well, people that get it.
Yeah.
So and Kim, like, if you don't, like, people look at, like, oh, it's so frustrating, isn't it? I mean, you must have been so frustrated sometimes.
I'm excited now because from my point of view, like looking and finding the TransTech guys, it's like, wow.
You found your home.
Found my tribe.
Me too. Like, I'm sitting there
like,
going, oh my God, looking at those slides, finally.
Yeah, my tribe is here, and now's
it's taken
the
me
time.
6 years.
It's like that need.
I've been working on this since 2013 when I discovered and redid the neuro. So honestly, you talk about human potential, the neuroplasticity, and I hope you want to try it after this, because it's free.
I'm in.
Like, it's free, and it's not free, but first of all you have to really want to do it. You know what I mean?
Other kinds of free,
Yeah, free. But compared to being on
both app stores, it's both on the App Store and the Google Store.
yeah, but
And trace it, like, I had to read Slim and go, I must be dumb, I can't get it.
Yeah, no.
No, friggin' use your brain.
No, it's the first version. We've got the next version to make it easier.
That, but I think iPad works really well, like better than
Yes,
phone
but we've got a new version coming, I promise you. And that's just one element. There's multiple elements. But when I discovered neuroplasticity, I became a guinea pig immediately. And I'm serious, like, my life is never, like someone said to me the other day, because you don't know me from the past, so but basically they said to me, I think you've become rewired to be high every day, because I discovered my own DMT.
Let's save that conversation for the after party. Let's give her a huge round of applause. Thank you. Before we get Marley up, I'm actually really stoked that you didn't have a crack at coffee. Like coffee's still on the list. That's really cool. And I did remember that word, revolution. Yeah. Revolution. Oh, yeah. That's the word I was seeking for before. So we're looking to start a revolution. Yeah. So thank you, Selena, Professor Selena Bartlett. That was incredible. And I'm so stoked to have connected, and like the best is yet to come, no doubt, for all of us. So thank you for being part of this. So without any further ado, I want to invite Marley Brown, the CEO and co-founder of Conpago. Marley has a background in health and fitness industry and a bachelor's degree in business management. He's always been passionate about social entrepreneurship. After developing his management skills in several industries and organizations ranging from sales, construction, he's got the fantastic opportunity to co-found Conpago. So Conpago is a tech-focused aged care startup dedicated to innovating aged care and combating social isolation. That's really cool, man. Amongst the elderly population, starting with his grandparents. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a huge round of applause to get him up here.
Selena, that was remarkable. It was amazing. I'll have to give your app a go, and very interested to hear about the your open APIs as well. So we're looking to make this hub a bit of a hub integrating. Did you? Fantastic. Well, we'll get a lot to talk about then. So I guess, a little bit of background on myself and Conpago. So we were actually formed out of a research project from QUT, off the back of a research project out of QUT, which was all around creating a social connection for elderly individuals who are living alone and their family and friends. So it was around the project around the connected kettle. So Mackenzie and myself, saw that bit of research. We thought it was fantastic. We could both relate to it. His grandparents lived in New Zealand. Mine were in Victoria. So this was something that we could really gel on. Especially is more critical for him. His grandmother was quite ill, and his mother used to have to make a phone call every morning to check in, to make sure that she was up and about and out of bed. So that's where this research from Professor Margot was fantastic, because it was an unobtrusive way to see that her grandma was up and about. So she'd get up in the morning, make a cup of tea, a light comes on in your kitchen. Really simple way of doing it. We loved that idea. We got into the QT Blue Box Accelerator. And we managed to secure another grant from the university to help commercialise the research. During that journey, we went out and spoke to as many elderly folk as we could. And where do they hang out? They hang out in retirement villages, and they're cared for by aged care providers. And so we went, started talking to these guys, and we found that they loved that idea, they loved the concept, but a lot of them wasn't there. It wasn't necessarily a family member who would be their preferred connection. So they wanted to be able to just let their neighbours know that they were up and about. So, and then we sort of realised that this piece of hardware that we were developing didn't really have that capability, and so then it became a software project, so that these people could communicate with one another, and then be able to see what events and things were coming up in the community. And I guess as software tends to do, it's bubbled out and developed. So so I'm starting with my grandmother. So they've moved into a retirement community, slightly separated from where they were. They're both unable to drive now, so that is, it's quite isolating for them. In a new community, they don't know anyone there. And there's obviously events and things happening, but it's a matter of them finding out when they're on and then being reminded, which is somewhat of a difficulty, actually. So, and they're not alone. So the senior population in Australia currently makes up 12%. In the next 30 years, that's expected to double, actually. That's an American stat. It's going to be even bigger here in Australia. So over 25% of the population will be over 65 by 2050. So this is, it's a huge opportunity. And governments in Australia it's been a terrifying thing, I think, for a lot. The ageing epidemic. But we've got South Australian government, they're changing the rhetoric on that now. They're calling it the ageing opportunity. So they're looking at, how can we actually benefit from this? How can we take the learnings from what's happening here in Australia in the aged care sector and make that care an export? So there's a number of initiatives at which we're working with different government operations here. How can we export the great things that we're doing here? I know there's a Royal Commission going on into aged care, but it's, in a lot of ways, it's actually a positive because it means that people actually care and they are looking to better the situation here. So, huge shortage of care workers nationwide in Australia, but internationally as well. Germany, UK, and then Japan. We all know about massive ageing population there. So at Compago, we're looking to leverage technologies to help support this demographic and also support those that support them. So we're looking to create more of a care community around elderly individuals who are living alone or geographically isolated from their family, or within a retirement living community as well. So if they've just moved in there, they don't know anyone, we've developed the Compago suite. So we have a dashboard system for the care providers. So just a simple way for them to upload any information, things that are happening within their village or within their local community, and as well as medication reminders. Then we have the Compago platform, just a really simple, easy to use tablet interface with messaging services, calendar, picture sharing, and video broadcasting. So this is a big one for those that are receiving home care. They'll often be unable to attend certain events, things like this. We're able to broadcast that, whether it's a talk on gut health or any kind of fitness classes. We can broadcast that. They can watch that from home on this tablet. And we've actually got one group which is really excited about this on the Sunshine Coast. They've started taking a camera down to the bowls club for the residents that are unable to attend because they're sick on the day or they're away. So they're able to tune in from home. And that was something that's has come about just sort of through these early pilots, which we're really excited about. And then a smartphone app for family and friends. And so the idea behind that is to get the family more involved in the whole care process. So it's not mum moves into the village and you kind of wash your hands of that. They're able to see what events are coming up, and it creates a touch point there for them to be able to communicate with each other, and also to get the family to come along and improve the intergenerational interactions as well. And then down the line, looking at different sort of wearables and smart bits that we can build on to create more of a health profile around an individual, so we can track their health goals over a period of time. There's something that's been sort of showed to us recently, which wasn't something that we really thought about, but what some of the more progressive providers are doing is when someone moves into their facility, is setting goals for them. So whether they, maybe someone hasn't been fishing for 5 years and they want to get back into it. So they start setting these goals, and then they're able to track those goals and improve someone's health outcomes rather than just moving in there and then watching them decline. Because it doesn't matter what age you are, you still need to be working towards something, and that's something that often gets forgotten towards that demographic. So that's a cool thing, and that's something that we're working on at the moment to build into the system. So this year to make this a little bit more accessible, some people you get this up on a smart television and also just the app as well. So looking at broadening our reach, and then so market opportunity. It's a B2B sales, so we are B2B to C really. So we sell the software system, and we can supply all the hardware as well to the aged care providers, and then they already have a billing arrangement with their clientele, so we can service them through that system. Retirement living is growing in Australia, but home care respite is massive as well. So there's been a big shift in the aged care model, so they're more following the NDIS scheme, so consumer-directed care, which has meant that these aged care providers have had to get a lot more innovative with what they're doing, and in turn, hopefully provide a better service for their customers. So they're more receptive to these sort of technologies now, but it has been a big push over the last couple of years, especially with real aversion to new tech. And what we found is actually a lot of it, so the residents themselves are excited about new tech. It's something new and innovative. They're keen to be a part of it, especially the pilots. But it's often the staff and people who have been working in the care sector for many years. They like the way that it just flows. They don't want to have to change or add anything more to their sort of daily schedule. So it's actually the biggest barrier for us is not the people who are going to be using their technology, but the people that think that they're going to have to create more work for themselves. So we've had some great support through Queensland Government, through the Ignite grant. That was kind of one of the things that got us off the ground, with QT Blue Box as well. And some other amazing resources here just in Queensland that have kind of supporting the startup ecosystem. It is fantastic and great to see what's happening down here as well with the Gold Coast Innovation Hub as well. And a recent partnership with HCF is pretty exciting for us as well. So that's going to challenge our business model a bit, but we're working with them on different ways that we can supply this kind of technology to individuals independent of a care provider, so more of a B2C model, and servicing the HCF clients through that. Our ever-growing team, it's a bit of a hungry team at the moment, but we've just really focusing as much as we can on development, building that out. I've taken on Bridget just this week, so she's Customer Experience Officer. So we've got our two biggest rollouts coming up tomorrow and Thursday, so hopefully that all goes well. One on the Sunshine Coast, another one in Brisbane. And then following that, we've got a number in South Australia as well. So so far we've just been in piloting stage, but we've got some great results from that, and obviously learnt a lot, added a lot of features that have been sort of customer driven, which has been really exciting. And advisory committee, pricing model. So depending on whether people need the hardware we can supply, or it's just a simple monthly payment for access to the software itself. Distribution, covered that. So using the providers themselves as a distribution model. It can be challenging, especially trusting someone else to sell your products, but that's something that we're sort of working on as well at the moment, and overcoming those challenges. Some local competition. Plus 60, they're a pretty innovative sort of tech company from Brisbane. They're doing a very similar product to us. And then we've got some other hardware players in Victoria. The exciting thing about them is so through technology now and open APIs, they've actually gone from being competitors to actually, hang on, we can really strengthen both of our offerings here. So we're in discussions with them, and another partnership with Flinders University to try and actually facilitate all of that. Roadmap, so university stuff. Universities has been fantastic for us. We've really leveraged that as much as we can, and the resources that QT has been able to provide. And then now that we're kind of understanding how the university model works, able to leverage that into different states as well, which is particularly exciting for us. We took on some investment last year out of a group from a family office from Dubai. So they're excited to see how this sort of technology is adopted here in Australia, and then looking at how we can move that into the Middle East. And awards, things that we've done. International opportunities, so Japan, obviously with their ageing population. We've done a fair bit of work with SoftBank Robotics and their Pepper robot. So looking at social robotics, that's been interesting. I think it's still very early days for social robotics, especially here in Australia. So we've sort of put that one on a bit of a side burner. Perhaps when the technology improves a bit more, and looking at a bit more adoption from the consumers as well. There was really a lot of pushback, especially in the villages from staff. Again, looking at so we bring the pepper in, and unions were nearly knocking on our door for that one. So moved on from the robotics, but and then looking at further afield, licensing the tech out to Europe and the US as well. So we've been quite successful with grants. We've raised a bit of funding last year, which is spurring us on, and we're looking to do another big raise this year. So we'll be looking locally and also into the Middle East again. So that's starting to gear up onto that campaign now. So any kind of advice and support into how that works, then we're open to that as well. And Compago, so that's us. So if you've got any questions, check in. Thanks. Thanks, Troy. Cheers.
Just a couple of things. So
Yeah.
with your capital raise, just want to make sure you're aware there's the business development fund.
Yes. So we'll be looking to tap into that, I think. Yep. Yeah. As a way to sort of spur on a bit more investment.
So the Business Development Fund, for those that aren't aware, it's an $80 million fund that the state government has. They co-invest with a lead investor. So say, for example, you do raise, even if it's the existing family office in Dubai, they wanted to put in, $750,000, they'll match up to that amount. As long as you're a Queensland-based business, which you are, your investment can come from fundamentally anywhere. So the value for the co-investor is there's a call option so that they can actually buy out the co-investor could buy out the state government. Say, for example, 3 years' time, you've gone gangbusters. Yeah, your share price 10x your share price. Well, the co-investor can buy out the state government at buy-in price plus CPI. So it's a really good
Good
initiative.
motivator.
Yeah, 100%. And the other thing I was going to suggest is eluded me, but it was off the back of that as well. So funding, I can't remember, it'll come back to me. Any questions for Mali? Any comments?
That's cool.
Yeah, who's doing all your app development?
So we're developing it all in-house. So we started off, so I'm actually civil engineering and business is my background. My co-founder was an architect. So neither of us really had any kind of app experience. We've learned a lot over the last couple of years. We started off with a development team in Indonesia. So the early stage development was done there because we found it was really difficult for us to find developers here in Australia to start with. It wasn't until we kind of had some traction and they had a bit of structure that they were felt confident to kind of come on board. So, and then during that we've transitioned from having 4 developers in Indonesia to now having 4 developers here in Australia, and they're all in our office at QUT. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is our current Office of the Chief Entrepreneur, big on scale, so it'd be worth grabbing her ear to see if you can get a conversation with her, given your international ambitions this year. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
Man, that's awesome. Any other questions before we let him go? Nope.
This is kind of a random question.
Yeah.
Nope.
Obviously, like a grip. So I think I just kind of like flagging in my mind because I'm thinking about like the epidemic of like Alzheimer's and dementia and trying to think how is it incorporated?
It will be once we do our
it can.
Yeah, that's right. So we're
It's like such a massive.
Yeah, no, it is, and that's where. So we see something like this as a simple, really cost-effective way to get a smart device into homes that otherwise wouldn't have one.
Yeah.
And then through that, we can start offering other services. So, we're looking at brain training, something like MigFit, as add-ons into this system. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, what you're doing is amazing, and it's so important. So you have no idea. You'll save our country. Seriously, because what I see happening when I went into retirement villages, and I see it in my own family, people stop doing things.
Yeah.
And when you understand how the brain works, it's like you could have little brain videos too, and because you have to actually physically push yourself to do new things. And as you get older, if you haven't been used to doing that,
Exactly.
then you actually just start dropping off things because you think, I'm 70, I shouldn't do this anymore, when actually it's quite the opposite. The brain really needs a lot of novel experiences, and that's how you keep those synapses going, So I like the fact that you said that, like...
the goal setting and...
Why shouldn't they have purpose at 95?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and if you get to 95, you probably do have some purpose.
Yeah, do.
It's the it's the ones that 75 that are suffering and 85 that don't have the purpose. Yeah, you won't make it that far otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just got so much potential.
Yeah.
In that space that you're talking about, and you could get grants in that space too. So if it's something that you're interested in working with us on, around the early dementia thing,
Yeah.
I think that
Absolutely.
That's a big opportunity.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad question.
No, good question.
Well done.
Yeah. Transtech.
Cool.
And thanks for introducing me to that too.
So you actually go around the fact that what I saw in the retirement villages, people didn't like the mobile phones. They want to have cheap plans and all of that. So you go around it by designing that kind of device. So that device sits inside their rooms.
It'll sit, so just in the home,
And
so
how much is that? And retirement villages are going to maybe put it as part of their infrastructure.
yeah. So with the newer villages, it's a lot easier. They're talking to us and how it becomes a part of the package. You buy a home there, and you get the device. With existing villages, it's more difficult. That's where we've come up with that's why I've built and just an app download. So there is.
That's a good idea because the technology is changing so rapidly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's been others. Leasing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of how we've modelled it. So
Do
it's
you know the Village Retirement Group?
the village. Yeah, I do know the village. I haven't spoken to them though.
I know the CEO there.
Okay.
So they're very wanting to be cutting edge in their
Yep.
head. And I think there's 6 or 7 around Brisbane.
Yeah.
And my ex-in-laws are there.
Okay.
But they funded my first launch of my app.
Right.
And so they're looking for cutting edge. They're all looking to be a bit ahead of their competition.
Yep.
Yep.
So that'd be something I can try and put you in touch with.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
Can't promise anything.
No. I mean, a warm introduction is huge, because that's what we as a big learning for us actually in the early days. Because let's start cold calling. We've got this amazing piece of technology and we're incredible. We're going to change the world, and just bang, the wall hit you. And
sorry. I was going to say, just with B2C, if you think of the end users or consumers, often with ageing population, we just assume they're going to be really risk adverse and not wanting to do the technology, depending on what they're dealing with illness-wise or whatever. But actually, the fact that you said it's more the staff being institutionalised or whatever in their surroundings, it's kind of like to break.
You do, because a lot of these people, they've done amazing things.
Probably quite open to it.
Yeah. They've got all diverse backgrounds from all over the place. Yeah.
They're just conditioned.
Choosing your mark though, I guess if you get it at the top and then it filters down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's give you a round of applause. Well done. Thank you. So at our initial Transformational Technology Queensland Chapter meetup, we had Kim Serafini from Positive Prime and Henry Bolton from Focus Band present. And so it's been a month. They're going to give us an update on the awesomeness that they've been up to. So I'm going to throw it to these guys. Over to you.
One of the greatest values, I think, of these kinds of groups is that whilst they're intimate, we have a chance to actually get to know each other. And last month, I spoke first, and Henry was sitting in the audience, but I didn't know who he was at that stage, but I could see this person fidgeting. I was thinking, what on earth is that about? But he was actually probably just excited about what I was saying, because he'd already started to figure out how he could integrate what we were doing. When he stood up and started speaking, I nearly didn't breathe for 20 minutes. Well, I got so excited about this gorgeous piece of kit I've now got on my head. Right, so the next day, he did an experiment with a headband on that is really a very fancy performance EEG device. And he watched a Positive Prime session because he'd already set up an account, and he sent me a text message that was a photograph of his brain frequency, these squiggly lines, and he said, "Do you have time for a coffee?" Right? Weirdly, both of us, Brisbane and Noosa, had travelled and stayed overnight, so I said, "Oh, let's catch up for a coffee." 7 hours later, we left that coffee, right? We had a beautiful opportunity to go and present, introducing Positive Prime to a group of employees in a manufacturing environment. And we were meeting with the head of this particular plant, and I thought, what better way but to go and see if we can sell our idea before we've even actually figured out what it is and how it works. And Henry and I literally showed up and we presented together. It was absolutely beautiful, and they said yes. Yeah, right. Unbelievable. So both of us are expanding what we're doing, definitely in corporate and enterprise and business. Both of us have a really compelling, I suppose, sell. We have lots of added benefit, lots of value, and we really know how we're going to deliver it. But we are so sexy together compared to actually going it alone, right? So for the very first time, even though I could say to you, a Positive Prime session is like 1,000 flashcards of scientifically selected, stunning images and really very carefully crafted words that will actually literally change your brain, I can now prove it. And so people were saying, oh wow, there's such pretty pictures. And I'm like, yeah, they are really very. But now, wait till you see what happens to gamma rays and theta, and I didn't even know what these words were a month ago. So I've been on a deep dive.
I think the collaboration is the thing that really is amazing about this group, that we all cross over. But I don't think we're competing. I think we're all sort of we're going in the same direction. Let's just try and team up and see what can happen.
And see what we can do. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So this morning on Zoom, I have a woman who works with us who's in Pennsylvania, a woman who works for us in Charlotte, North Carolina. They're both different kinds of professionals. One's a licensed social worker, the other's a business coach. And then there was Henry and me. We're all in different locations, and we actually were going through an experiment of group flow. We're all watching the same piece of content and seeing how our brain waves or our frequency synced. Well, what was...
I'm going to start it while you...
Okay, what was beautiful was that Henry and I had a suspicion about what might happen because, of course, we have tried this a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. He's actually just making sure he's breathing while I'm talking.
I think we're both in red at the moment. Okay.
So, you want to explain what red is?
So red is when we're thinking too much, too conscious. So we want to get back into like a subconscious flow state. So at the moment, we probably should be breathing a bit better. So let's see if we can.
Do the Wim Hof.
That's where. Okay. There we go.
Oh.
Now, my head's on the left and Kim's is on the right, hopefully. Sorry. Depends on which way you're looking at the screen. I'm on the left looking from that side. Yeah.
Well, clearly because I'm Kimbo.
Yeah, so what we can do is, at the moment we've just got it around the round table, but in about 20 seconds, we're going to bring up... Oops.
So do we, no, do you want us to leave?
Right.
No, that'll be mine.
Oh, it's yours. Okay.
So what actually happens is you open up the app, no matter where you are in the world, and there's 10 people, and effectively you're watching the same piece of content. So Henry's already figured out how to embed our content, and we've already figured out what we need to do to create the API. It's absolutely extraordinary. We can actually customize this, so we can put in memories, which is fantastic actually for your population. So we were already doing some of those trials. Henry's already doing an incredible contribution to a trial in mental health in the United Kingdom. It's really very, very exciting. And so all of a sudden we were just like, let's see if we can help each other. We know we're working with some people in Monte Carlo who have funding based out of London. I've actually already pitched Henry's business into what they're doing. So it's interesting because it doesn't take very much for us to actually create magic. And quite frankly, Troy, you're the one that is facilitating it. So in terms of vision, it's unbelievable. I can't be in flow while I'm talking. It's just crazy. But this morning, basically the people who are involved in my team were like, oh, we did it for, what, 5 minutes? Like, imagine if you did like healing intention circles. Or imagine if you've got a group of executives who are actually all really thinking about the vision and the values of the company. It's just, this is just so revolutionary. It's just...
Yeah, we can have up to 12 people at once. Obviously, there's only 2 of us here. But then we can show an average of the group, which really starts to excite us when we can scale up as big as we want. We've started at 12, but we can, obviously, the way we've written it, can scale up to as many people as we can get involved. Yeah. So, you know, it can be 1,000, 2,000 people eventually, all with the same intent, and see what happens. Yeah, see how we can start changing the world together.
So we did this little clinic on Sunshine Coast, and we had a father and a son come along, and the son had special needs and had effectively been told that there was something wrong with his brain and his developmental learning possibilities. And in 20 minutes, you should have seen Henry actually guiding this child in learning how to breathe and believing in himself. And the child, for the very first time, actually realised he has a brain. No, I mean, for real, right? So we actually changed the trajectory of this child's life for the rest of his life, because people have joked to him like he doesn't have a brain, but he does. And Henry actually does these incredible drills where he teaches really awareness and focus and what being in flow is like. And so this child literally started to breathe differently, he's been for 12 years at school being told that he can't focus and he can't pay attention. He can pay attention absolutely perfectly, can't he?
Well, yeah, it was basically just teaching how to move his awareness to the right, or in the right sequence.
And he was getting neurofeedback about it directly from the headband.
Feedback.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so then we tried with a mother and a daughter. The daughter really wants to study medicine. She's in her final years. She gets anxiety before any examinations. And we wanted her to actually learn how to use positive prime sessions to really calm down, and in an accelerated learning format. Anyway, so I had the mother actually watch whilst the daughter had the headband on, and we showed her some different things to do. And I have to say this out loud. The actual value wasn't necessarily for the daughter. It was so that the mother could see that the daughter can actually manage her own anxiety. I think we actually literally changed the mother more than we did the daughter in that one session. Because the mother now knows that she has the tools, and she could see just by the reaction and what was happening, and she didn't have overactive beta, right? So she was like, wow, my daughter is even more amazing than I thought. Anyway, so that particular daughter... Yeah, maybe. I'd say that. Exactly. But here's the cool thing. What we actually did was we showed them, because the beautiful thing about a focus band is it gives something objective and evidence-based for human beings who are naturally cynical and skeptical to actually latch on to, right? And so that mother and daughter have now been watching positive prime sessions twice a day, every day for the last week. And this morning reported that the daughter was, for the very first time, writing a speech, and she's got terrible anxiety around speaking in public. And she can never remember, like she can't memorize her speeches, but she perfectly memorized the speech for the first time. And so it's those tiny little touch points, and then expand that out and multiply it. It's because basically Troy invited us both to speak. Did you see what happened? Because both of you saw each other speak. You immediately said, oh, I know that CEO, right?
There's a connection straight away.
Right. It's phenomenal. So I think if we can build out this community and we can continue to bring like-minded souls here, we will create something miraculous.
What I would love, and I think having Troy in charge is... because I've lived in the Bay Area and I'm American too, but what I would love to see, and for Australia, especially Southeast Queensland, is for us to work out a way to collaborate together in an effective way where everyone wins, so that we can compete with the world instead of competing with each other. And I see this even because I'm a scientist, and doctors north and south of the river competing in Brisbane. North and south of the river. I'm like, there is a world out there that you're meant to be.
Yeah, like really?
Yeah. And I look at all of this and I think, wow, imagine if If we can make it go around a bit.
It is about having that shared vision and that scalability. I think, I've been recently, as part of the space, forced to collaborate, but there was no real need to collaborate. It actually was dysfunctional. But I can see the synergies in this, as long as we're, and looking at transformational technologies and the entrepreneurs we're supporting, it is about, how can we help you to scale internationally? And there are definite ways that you guys can plug into each other, and we've all got our own individual networks, so it just makes sense. And every other chapter out there is vying to be, the hub in the world for this sort of place. But we, I think we can do it. I think we.
It takes a certain mindset.
Well,
Leadership, normally.
well, I
What
guess.
she's saying is you've got it.
Rock
Oh,
star.
it's good that you gift.
I'll take I take that as a compliment. And this is a shout out to one of the startups that is part of a member, as part of the space. And if any of you guys got shirts, I'd be happy to wear them for you. That way, every time someone asks about it, I can go, oh yeah, good. And I can talk about it.
Preferred colour?
Black and blue.
Black and blue.
Black and blue.
We can do blue.
Yeah. Do you guys have much more? Do you want to cover off?
No, I thought we'd just keep it short and sweet for tonight. Yeah, we're really interested in both talks tonight. I am anyway. I think there's great synergy straight up with all four products. Yeah, I think they all fit really well with each other.
Yeah,
We can work out how to make that
and
all work.
I think the umbrella of TransTech is excellent because
Yeah.
of the three pillars, which is exactly what you're all trying to do.
Yeah, I think we answer all three pillars quite well. Like we've got the tool that can measure all of that with all the interventions going across as well. I think there's a real big opportunity.
Sorry to cut you off, but I was going to actually skip the panel, but we're kind of paneling right now. So I'm just going to throw to our video guy, Andrew, for a sec. Should I get the guys to come up and does it work if we're just up here? We'll just do 5 minutes because I want to give Leanne the spot. We have to put mics on. You got a mic? Just Marley. Because on this conversation, it's like, well, how do we make these events better? Like for me, it was like, and then like, what do we need? We caught up and we talked around like creating a steering group for this. Like it would be good to own TransTech in Australia and base it here in Queensland, but then like how do we collectively strengthen that in the global arena as well? Like how do we support, this is a cluster to form really well in Australia, so that we support the people that are already doing it, but then also encourage others. And we've got some experience in ecosystem development, so it's like, well, engaging the key stakeholders and bringing them to the table, but funding also helps as well.
Absolutely. You do need that support.
Yeah. So what are the, all right, if we look at it from this event point of view, like traditionally, like how I was envisioning is to showcase and record and then, profile and showcase. Is there a better way to do this? Like these events?
Oh, look. You've got to start somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Don't you?
Yeah.
Do you think I should take that off? while you're talking?
That's a good look, I think. Maybe we should all get them.
Well, totally. Could have this conversation whilst we're wearing them and see how we could all get into group flow. Huh?
I think what you're doing is good for now, like bringing us together is huge. Like I only just met you and then I knew Kim for other reasons, but I've never met Henry and you, and that's huge.
Yeah.
At this point, because to have like what I've learned in my journey so far is it ends up being the people and the relationships that really matter.
Well, there's about another dozen people that have identified that, and people are starting to email me going, hey, I want to present as well. Like, and people intrastate, so out of outside of Queensland, want to come up. So,
is there any way that you could do one month on the Gold Coast, 1 month in Brisbane, 1 month on the Sunshine Coast, 1 month in Sydney? Is there any chance for any movement, or you don't think you get enough traction that way?
It's everything's an assumption until you do it and you get that data. What I do want to do though is, once I have more time, is to start reaching out and finding like other partners, like sponsors, that people that have communities as well, and work with them and bring their logos into this and say, hey, will you be part of this
revolution that we're part of, so as to identify, profile, showcase, and bring more people into this.
I think you'll definitely find that as sort of transformational tech becomes more of a household sort of name. We've got fintech, you've got all these different tech. So there's something that we've kind of struggled with, like what do you hashtag here?
Yeah.
Is it age tech? That doesn't sound right. It's not quite right. Like health tech. Well, kind of not really health tech, but yeah. So the trans tech, that's awesome. I'll be honest, before tonight, I didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
So, but it's certainly something I'll be taking away from this. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Tell that
It is,
story.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want more like interaction? Do they want to try more equipment, or like if we were in a group together? Yeah, like bringing your interventions and putting it in the systems, and we can actually trial it out. I think that'd be
awesome.
Yeah. As a group, like we could set up here. We could have 12 people, to be honest. Up front. Yeah. See what happens.
I think that's definitely a good idea. And like you mentioned, even getting Nicole on the call. So we'll set that up. Nicole Bradford, the founder of TransTech, we'll get her to be one of those seats at that table. So we'll make that happen one event soon. But also thinking like a 1 day or 2 day hackathon, like biotech, trans tech, hackathon. Biohacking is something that I'm also interested in. And it's like, well, can we have speakers and workshops, and we'll have a 1 or 2 day event where we have a bit like a startup weekend, a bit like an expo, but.
I think it would be fabulous. Have we talked about the VR avatar?
I know, I so want to do that. And then Kim's like part way there already with it, with the Positive Prime. Putting your photos into your slow, but like to step into that virtual world.
So people like David Goggins created Goggins. So mine is Dr. Selena B. I got rid of the ARTLETT. I also got divorced. But I'm just saying that's my avatar. So I'm creating the brain that I want, right?
Yeah.
Which is be great to have a weekend where people come in and they create an avatar.
Yeah.
And we give them all the biohacking tools so that by the time they leave, they have actually biohacked into the avatar, so they can start using all of these fast tracking. It's an accelerator for biohacking.
Yeah, wow.
Because we want to actually, I would love to see a step. You want to do human potential, right? So do I.
Yeah.
And I want to teach people you've got to trickle down your weaknesses, not go to your strengths, right?
Yeah.
So if we could just have 1 weekend where we could have an accelerator for biohacking, where people are actually seriously biohacking themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's how you spread it, right, out. Because then they go and show their friends, and as an example, and then they're using all of your trans tech to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's another movement.
That's actually brilliant.
Started by I think it is as well, absolutely. Like that's like the neuroplasticity, you're reshaping over the course of a weekend. People are going to walk away changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can, like using I could just, how you could stick some of the APIs into your technology.
Systems that get the
so he could
communication
actually
happening
see how he
and
can
track it over a period of time as well.
Yeah.
Mikey Siegel, he started a movement called consciousness hacking, so we could tap into that as well.
So this wouldn't be a guided DMT.
That's the Byron Bay weekend that follows.
There are questions on the floor.
Demo.
A question for the for the founders. I was thinking when I went home from the last session in terms of building ecosystem and who are those key persons of influence, and meeting like a lot of psychologists. Do you see them as being like an industry that's going to be disrupted and left behind, or do you see them as being facilitators? Where do you think they sit in amongst this ecosystem?
I think it's like everything. You'll get the, like in this room, 20% are just going to do it, 20% are going to think about doing it. It's like reading a self-help book, and then 80%, or what's that, 60% won't do anything.
Maths problem.
Yeah, I know. I need to do math training. But psychology, I honestly believe that, and we don't know, right, really, but neuroscience, big data, technology are going to have to disrupt. Mental health is a disaster. And you cannot tell me that it's working. It has to be disrupted. It's $1 trillion to $2 trillion industry, and I can tell you all the VCs that I talked with at this event I was at last October, that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for CBT online, digital online. They're not looking for doctors going to homes. They're looking for a disruptor like Airbnb to hotels in the mental health space. And I see it because I've done it for myself. And I've got a whole lab dedicated to it now and you see it, right? Because you've done it for yourself and you've done it for yourself. And it's neuroplasticity because you can change your brain. And it's just now working out how can we help everyone, because everyone's got different experiences coming to the table with different things, and some things will work for some people.
So they're not a sector you're seeking out to bring to events, you think they'll just be disrupted, is that the consensus?
I mean, if I'm going to add as well, I actually have a virtual psychologist in the building, right?
Yeah.
A company called Virtual Psychologists, so they pretty much provide online mentoring services. But what they do as well, things like they want to look in graduate student journals, they want to look at different other avenues as well, because at the end of the day, everyone
Gratitude journals.
but yet they're still all trained psychologists as well, you know what I mean? So there's difference. I think there's a merging of both worlds as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't think we'll know how it'll be disrupted, to be honest, but it will be disrupted.
Yeah. And the nature of disruption is you don't necessarily see it coming.
Blindsided.
Drive the ecosystem, who are the obvious people that, like as members or whatever we are, ambassadors, patrons, like who are the people we're seeking out day to day in the next 4 weeks to get to the next event? And I know my first thought.
I think it has to be early adopters, people who will trial, who also then will advocate more trial, because nothing ever works unless it's used. Right? And at the end of the day, we're all founders of businesses and we all need revenue, and no one ever generates any revenue unless real human beings are engaged, right? So we need...
I mean, with stuff, technology like this, perhaps to get the psychologists on board, it might have to become a part of their curriculum, or a unit that they have to do, which is, I don't know, some future tech, or I don't know, perhaps it's an elective, I don't know.
Well, my dean told me there is no such thing as neuroplasticity.
Right, okay, well there you go. So there's some pretty fundamental changes that are going to have to be made.
Yeah, but it's just like you were saying, I forget who it was. I think the staff in the retirement.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
because
yeah.
And I was like that.
Yeah.
I was developing drugs. I was a pharmacist, I was medically trained. I did not believe in neuroplasticity either.
No. Leopard doesn't change the spots.
It took me a lot to change my own mind. So I'm just saying, it just does, it's one of those things, it's like couch surfing was before Airbnb, right? It was really small and there was just the early adopters, and now everyone uses Airbnb kind of thing, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's that 25-75 thing you were talking about?
We had the same, like with golf, the coaches were the biggest hurdles to overcome. We did it from the ground up. Like, did customers forced enough change in the industry to say that they wanted to use this tech? So we came in from the bottom up instead of top down in that market. So sometimes
we've done the same.
You can come from either end.
Cool. Conscious of time, so we might just have one more what piece of advice, or what would you like to see moving forward as part of this transformational technology sort of meetup, broader ecosystem, TransTech Australia, you think?
It'd be great to get people maybe that are like angel investors, VCs and government people together with us to help on the funding side.
Cool.
And work out a way that we can collaborate more effectively together so that we can synergize elements, because actually four brains in a room is much smarter than one individually housed separately.
And that's why I think Andrew's role as the storyteller, or helping us tell the stories, is really important. So we're capturing this, and we're going to start telling the stories about transformational technologies in Queensland and in Australia.
Yeah.
Cool. Henry?
I think, just the collaboration in maybe workshops style things. Yeah, if we can start doing some of those, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Cool. Any ideas like that, just feed them up and we'll make them happen. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, just playing on that, the United Front, I guess, and just at the education side of it, getting people understanding what transformational tech is, and a big part of that will be, is financial drivers, getting the angel investors, VCs on board, and I mean, a transformational tech accelerator.
Yeah, well,
let's get some cash together and make it happen.
It's not ridiculous to think that, and that's what my play has been, is to get this initial expert in residence grant is what it is, kind of thing, and work on building these relationships with these key stakeholders, identifying where the entrepreneurs are, doing this sort of work, building the audience, and then from there go, all right, well, this is where we were. Now,
Yeah.
9 months on, now this is where we are. Like, there's something happening here. So it makes it easier to raise that funding for that accelerator.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there needs to be a really concerted effort towards educating the media.
Yep.
We have to actually raise awareness and whet their appetite and essentially have people interested in what this is, so that, you know, there's a carrier effect as well. As the light gets shone on transformative technologies, the people who are involved in the ecosystem will essentially benefit.
Hashtag TransTech.
Transtech Queensland. I think the beauty of this is you all individually are solving
I think we
real
should do Transtech
important
Oz.
problems.
TransTech Oz.
Yeah, yeah.
Think
Yeah,
bigger.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Transtech Oz.
Transtech. Yeah.
Well, there is Transtech Global. No, I definitely think we need to go with Transtech Oz.
I'm totally down for Transtech Oz. But you guys are all solving problems individually that are really important problems to be solved right now. So they're good news stories in the media, and we just need to make sure we're using this hashtag or this brand, part of Transtech Oz, and that's going to allow us to bring in more resources to help.
Brisbane's
Support.
the city council and the government's got to focus on trying to become that hub, right? Like a startup hub.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, California is Queensland, but it's still the United States. People look towards the US. There are some people who are trying to say that, you know, Colorado is California, but it's not yet. Queensland is it,
Yeah.
inside Australia.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
just the headquarters of where TransTech lives. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's not also Melbourne and Adelaide and Perth and.
And I'm totally down for the roadshow thing, but it's something to just be explored as we move into it. Yeah. Cool.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
time,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I did want to, before I say adios amigos, invite Leanne just to tell us 5 minutes about Lose Your Mind.
Hi. I'll be really quick. Firstly, I had postnatal depression. I worked for Weight Watchers and I went to QUT last year, and now I'm a research assistant at QUT, and I've got
Aging.
No, I'm not in aging. I'm in psychosis. So I don't know where I fit in this, but my goal is to create connections. So in order for people to get the early intervention, whatever that happens to be, they need to talk, and in order to talk, they need to feel safe. My goal is to create safe spaces. The way that I do that is by driving empathy. In order for you to feel empathy for your fellow man, you've got to actually be vulnerable, and you've got to go, okay, what is it that I can tap into inside myself in order to listen to you without judgment, without fear, with compassion, with love, with curiosity. In order to do that, a lot of people go, let's say on Are You Okay Day, are you okay? You know what, I'm really not. And people go,
I wasn't expecting that.
No.
That's too hard.
That's too hard. I don't know what to do with that information. Or a teacher will go, just talk to the guidance officer. People just flick it. Okay? So what I do is I have a 360-degree video. It's fully immersive, sight, sound, touch, and smell. And you go through this experience, and the idea is you sit in a classroom and I want you to listen to a talk. At the end of it, I say, what was the talk about? Okay? On top of that, I put sight, sound, touch, and smell. There's snakes and little girls and voices telling you that you suck. We stress you out. Your heart rate goes up. You fog up my goggles quite often. People will cry. We mess with your short-term memory, because at the end I go, what was the talk about? And people go, even the head of the Thompson Mental Health Institute did it, and he goes, I was listening, and every time I went, I have to remember that, I have to remember that. And I said, and we chatted a bit, I said, what was it about? He goes, what was it? And so people go, it's on the tip of my tongue. And I go, well, I'm not giving you marks for that, because people go, just go to a lecture, just do a math exam, just get a job, just do a counselling session, just go on a date. But you can't do that. So even though we talk about psychosis, which is hallucinations and delusions and all that muck going on, if we pull it apart, I make the lights flicker, I've got a dripping tap, I pull it apart, and we go, okay, so yes, we talk about psychosis to get your heart rate up, but if we bring it back a step and go, somebody struggling with a mental illness or a brain illness, they're dealing with this on a daily basis. So somebody who might take off my 6-minute virtual reality at 3 minutes and go, nah, I've had someone chuck it across the room. They've thrown it and gone, nah, I'm out, you can keep your snicks. And I go, no, that's good. Good. You can take it off. Someone with mental illness, someone who's struggling, can't take it off. I've got people who sit there deadhead, I'm not looking around, I'm just listening at what you're saying, I've got to get this right. You can't live life like that. You get exhausted. You have to look around the room. So the idea is I want you to go, okay. So then if somebody says, you know what, the shadows are talking to me, or I think that is actually the FBI and I think it's watching me, or I hear voices, or I see things, and people who, through no fault of their own, have come to be like this, whether it's epigenetics or trauma or whatever it is, they've come to this point. You lean in and you be loving. So not only do we put the VR on you and give you
Bubbles.
I'm hearing.
Yes. Be careful, don't say that. You'll end up somewhere.
Yeah. So not only do we go, okay, I'm going to give you this emotional experience, I'm going to drive you into a point of paranoia, I might make you cry. I then couple that with a mental health literacy workshop that's all about mental illness. How do you lean in? How do you be loving? How do you deal with someone who's losing their mind, losing their shit in front of you? Or somebody who you think is struggling, you go up to them and you actually give you the tools to be proactive, to approach the 1 in 4 that are struggling. But also to be receptive if somebody says, I am struggling. So that's the space that we work in. I've got people from all over the world contacting me. I had a video conference with Toronto today. But I know why I'm doing this. It's the what and the how that I'm figuring out. At the moment, it's literally me and my kids flying to Iowa in May to go and reduce the stigma in Iowa of some woman whose son committed suicide and she blames stigma. So literally, it's me and my clinical psych trying to figure this out. We're looking at train-the-trainer models, we're looking at downloadable things, we're looking at all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, I'm a one-woman show. Who knows why she's doing it? It's the what and the how that I'm trying to figure out. So when you said, what could you get more from here? I'm going to an event in the morning where it's, this is me, this is my startup, yada, 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 this is what I'm doing. Here are my challenges. This is where I'm struggling. Do you understand that bit? Can I explain that better? Is anybody in the room, do you have experience with that? Have you had success with that? This is where I'm struggling, this is my challenge. Use this body of interesting, connected, excited people who understand impact to try and do that. So that's me.
Oh.
Cool.
Thank you. I'll be really excited to see how this journeys over the coming months. Yeah. I think we can definitely help connect you in and work together. So thank you for sharing. All right, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it.
And Troy, this first thing also, we all have backgrounds, and I think, I'm come from sales and marketing backgrounds. I'd love to help out with startups, plus obviously working with the hub, anything with the government grants and branding, marketing, sales, anything that can help as well would be awesome. So I think all of us can kind of contribute somehow as well, although I don't have Transtech right now yet, but you know what I mean, that's something that can help with soft skills and
Perfect, 100%. So yeah, about supporting each other with
and even after conversation with Henry, because Henry was talking about sales, and I've come from sales backgrounds. We're actually starting doing a course now with my business partner, how to teach, how to bring archetypes and feminine and masculine energy into teaching sales, which is really interesting. But it's more so far just doing the course, but then how to bring even tech to that as well would be awesome. So yeah, that is beautiful.
So off the back of that, I'm gonna, if you're not friends with me, I think Facebook, is there a better group than Facebook at the moment? I think LinkedIn groups don't tend to work so well.
No,
I'll reach out to you via your registration on Facebook.
Do you have a Transtech Facebook?
Yeah, I don't have, there's a group as opposed to a page thus far. There's the international page, but what I'm created is an Australian-based group. So that way we can offer our services and contribute and ask for help and basically start building the community. And like you will get a follow-up email after today with a invitation to join the global Slack channel. Please do that. We're going to keep you up to date with what's happening globally. But it'd be great to get connected in. We're friends on Facebook now, so I'll add you to that group. Kim's in there. I think Henry may be in there, I'm not sure, but I'll add everybody. Any questions, any comments before I let you all go?
Oh, cool. Thanks for putting it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Awesome.